I know the title might sound like clickbait, but what I'm about to share is truly unknown in the golf world. A unique insight that can help you finally get rid of your slice once and for all. No credit card required, not even an email address. Of course, there's no one-size-fits-all solution for all slices, just like there isn't for any other mishit. However, you've probably been bombarded with well-intentioned but ultimately useless advice like control your right shoulder's urge to rush forward, turn your hips more in the downswing, roll your hands over, pull down your arms, and so on. You won't catch me bothering my students with tired clichés like these. In my nearly 40 years as a golf instructor, having taught over 10,000 golfers, more than half of whom were slicers, I know that 80% of the slices can be eliminated with just a handful of corrections. That's why I can guarantee to fix a slice in one lesson. If I can't help a student hit a straight ball, or better yet, teach them how to draw or hit a push hook, I wouldn't accept a single dime. So what are the real causes for the slice? You've probably heard 1,000 times that a slice is caused by an out-to-in swing path and an open club face. That's true, but most golfers only manage to fix one of the two. Either they close the club face but still come from the outside, resulting in a pull hook at best. A shot, as John Jacobs used to say, requires a lot of golf course on the left. Or the club approaches the ball from the inside, but the face remains open. For these push slices, you need a lot of golf course on the right. A draw, the dream of all golfers and the hallmark of real skill, requires both. An inside swing path and a club face that is closed relative to that path. Why is it so difficult to achieve both? Because hardly anyone understands what the two key movements, forearm rotation and wrist flexion, do to the club. Forearm rotation closes the club face but causes the club to come from the outside. Palmar flexion closes the club face and shallows the shaft. It's a common misconception that palmar flexion only closes the club face. If someone demonstrates this, they are also rotating their forearms at the same time, probably without realizing it. If you don't understand these relationships, you won't be able to crack many slices. Now, one might think that all you have to do is to bow your left wrist, since it closes the face and shallows the shaft. But if you just bow your left wrist at address, you can see that while this closes the face, it also moves the club head back. If I now move my hands forward enough to bring the club back to the ball, there wouldn't be enough loft to get the ball airborne. To merely close the face, you need a combination of left wrist bowing and forearm rotation. The necessary amount depends on the hand position. For example, when I move my hands from the address position further in front of the ball, the club face opens. That means the more I move my hands in front of the ball, the more forearm rotation and palmar flexion I need to square up the face. But when do I have to do what? Forearm rotation in the middle of the downswing doesn't work because that will immediately throw your club head to the outside. In fact, you even need forearm rotation in the opposite direction right after the transition. Why is that? During the backswing, no forearm rotation is needed. This can be proven by showing that the forearms are in a neutral position at address and at the top of the backswing. At address, I can rotate about 90 degrees in both directions. The same applies to the top. I can rotate about 90 degrees to one side and to the other. However, the downswing is not a mirror image of the backswing because compared to the corresponding positions in the backswing, the body rotation is always ahead and the release of the wrist is always behind. Both of these factors steepen the shaft. The shoulder turn brings the club to an outside-in path, and a more pronounced wrist angle steepens the club and brings the hands further in front of the ball, which opens the club face. To bring the club down on the same plane as in the backswing, the forearms must rotate counterclockwise during the downswing. If my assertion is correct, I shouldn't be able to rotate my arms the same amount in both directions in this normal-looking downswing position. Let's try it. I can rotate only 30 degrees clockwise, but over 150 degrees counterclockwise. So if I rotated quite a bit clockwise in the first half of the downswing, I need to rotate counterclockwise in the second half. Fortunately, this final counterclockwise rotation often doesn't need to be performed consciously. Flattening the club in the middle of the downswing can be aided by palmar flexion, which, as I said, not only closes the club face but also shallows the shaft. Flattening the club rather than pulling the arms down is therefore the key movement for most slicers. Pulling down the arms tends to steepen the club and often is accompanied by a cupped wrist position, meaning an open club face. But in golf, there's no correction that's right for everyone. Everyone has their unique mix of mistakes, compensations, and unnecessary actions. Since I don't know your individual cocktail, the best I can offer is an algorithm, meaning a kind of flowchart or decision tree that can help you help yourself. I understand that it would be much easier if I could just give you a universal trick. But if I did that, I'd simply be joining the long list of frauds on YouTube. While that might sell annual subscriptions and training aids, that's not my goal. My goal is to help golfers until they can fix themselves. Of course, I have no objections if you want to achieve this kind of independence even faster with my support, but it also pays off for me if I can fix your slice with just the help of this video. You recommend it to your friends, and that way I get free advertising. Now back to the algorithm. To determine what you specifically need to eliminate your slice, first check if your club is approaching the ball from the inside. If your divots are clearly pointing to the left, the question is answered. Your club is coming from the outside. If you don't own a TrackMan or a similar device, and if you don't take divots or play your shots off a mat, you'll need your mobile phone to film your swing. The camera should be positioned exactly in line with the butt end of the club at address. Now you look at the picture in which the club is parallel to the ground just before impact. If the club head is to the right of your hands, you need to change that. It's not enough to get them in line with your hands. Clearly inside is the goal. With irons, the club should be about 2 inches inside of your hands, with a drive at least 5 inches, since the ball is positioned further to the left, and the driver head usually is already moving to the left when it hits the ball, unless it's coming significantly more from the inside than with an iron. If the club approaches the ball from below the plane, the club head can still move to the left at impact when the hands are behind the ball at impact. This phenomenon is called D-plane, with D standing for divergence. The moment the club head overtakes the hands, it moves back to the left, even if it was behind the hands when it was parallel to the ground. However, it is rare that the hands are actually behind the ball at impact. Most people hit too early, but at least they manage to get their hands in front of the ball at impact because they're shifting their body towards the target. Coming from the outside can have several causes. Firstly, a steep takeaway. Secondly, a laid-off club at the top. Thirdly, a laid-off club during the transition. Or simply a lack of the mentioned forearm rotation in the downswing. A draw-inducing backswing and transition look like this. First of all, you need to start the club inside with plenty of shoulder turn. And don't let anyone tell you that a flat takeaway causes a steep downswing. That's nonsense. And the fact that it gets repeated over and over again, even by the most prominent pros, doesn't make it true. In the draw-inducing backswing, the club is slightly across the line at the top and remains across the line during the transition. If this is enough to approach the ball from the inside, fine. If not, shallow your shaft with a clockwise forearm rotation after the transition in the downswing. A piece of foam from the DIY store placed just outside the ideal path can work wonders in this regard, and it motivates you to swing on a more inside path and gives you feedback whether you passed or missed the test. If the club is approaching the ball enough from the inside, the next step is to check if the club face is still too open. If the ball starts right and doesn't curve back towards the target, the club face was too open. For a draw, the club face at impact doesn't need to point left of the target. A club face that's closed relative to the swing path is enough. It actually is slightly open relative to the target. For example, if the club is approaching the ball from 5 degrees from the inside, a club face that's 3 degrees open is, in absolute terms, is sufficient for a little draw because it's 2 degrees closed relative to the swing path, which already imparts enough hook spin on the ball to produce a 15-yard draw. This order, first the swing path, then the club face, is important. Otherwise, the following will surely happen. The pull slicer closes its club face and with his out-to-in path, he hits pull hooks. If the swing path is corrected in the second step, the club face is often far too closed afterwards, and you have to undo the first step. Many people don't realize that the club face of a pull slicer is already closed in absolute terms and only open relative to the out-to-in path, which is why the ball slices. However, in some cases, the club is coming from the inside and the club face is open relative to this swing path. In this case, it must be closed. A stronger grip and/or a more bold wrist position at the top will help here. Only when the leading edge of the club is parallel to the ground at the top of your swing, you have done everything necessary during the setup and backswing. If the club face is in the correct position at the top, the club is approaching the ball from the inside and you're still slicing, is almost certainly because you're cupping your left wrist in the downswing. The best way to correct this is to try to point the logo of your glove towards the ground at impact. Now you have all the information to fix your slice. If you have any questions or run into problems, drop a comment below and I'll do my best to provide a solution. If you want personalized help but can't come to Germany and visit me here, send me a video of your swing for a personal diagnosis. All for €50 with a money-back guarantee. Please leave a comment, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in English. This way even shankers and whiffers, scoopers and hookers can hope for some help in the future. Cheers.